Let's journey to a place you might call fairyland. Here we find a wise king and his most cherished treasure, his daughter, a princess of such breathtaking beauty that he named her Ravissante. You see, she was his entire world, and her happiness was all that mattered to him. But as with all great fairy tales, beauty like hers often comes with a catch. A fairy delivered a prophecy that would hang over Ravissante's entire life. Her true happiness, her perfect felicity, depended on one thing, and one thing only: her heart remaining faithful to its first love. Now the king, he begged the fairy, just grant her the gift of constancy. But even for a fairy, that was a power too great to bestow. So she offered the next best thing. She would raise the princess herself, in a world crafted for the sole purpose of teaching her fidelity. And just like that, the young princess was whisked away to a magical palace, one built upon a single enormous rock, set in the middle of the sea. And everything there, I mean everything, the rock, the palace, the furniture, even the flowers, was the color of the sky. The fairy took this as a very good omen, because of course, blue is the color of fidelity itself. By the time she was 14, the princess's beauty was, well, it was beyond anything anyone had ever imagined. She had this exquisite complexion, set off by stunning dark hair. But her eyes, her deep blue eyes were so brilliant, so captivating, that it was said no one could even meet her gaze without instantly losing their heart to her. So, the stars begin to align, signaling that Ravissante's destiny was drawing near. And the fairy, well, she had a plan. Her own nephew, a prince named Ariston, was born at the very same hour and was bound by the very same fate. He too could only find happiness if he remained faithful. It seemed like a perfect match, right? So, the fairy brought the young prince to her enchanted rock, hoping to tie their destinies together. For Prince Ariston, the plan worked like a charm. He fell head over heels, passionately in love, the very moment he laid eyes on Ravissante. But for the princess, nothing. Absolutely nothing. She met all of his devotion with his unshakable indifference, treating the magical feats and spectacles he created for her as if they were just simple tribute, something owed to her beauty, which she repaid simply by watching. After a full year of this, Ariston's despair was just absolute. During a party to mark the anniversary of their meeting, invisible musicians filled the air with this heartbreakingly sad concert. It ended with this lament, which honestly perfectly summed up the prince's hopeless situation. And the tragic thing is, though he didn't know it, this was actually the happiest period of his life. As Ariston's sad little party continued, something truly surprising appeared way out at sea, and it immediately caught the princess's eye. It was an arbor, woven from myrtle and laurel branches, and it was being pulled across the water with incredible speed by thousands of winged fish. Now for Ravissante, who had literally only ever seen a world of blue, the sight of green was a complete and utter novelty. And as the arbor opened, out stepped a young man of marvelous beauty, dressed in myrtle branches. The moment he saw Ravissante, he was just as awestruck as she was. He moved with a grace she'd only ever seen in her own reflection, and asked, "Is it possible that such a goddess has not temples throughout the universe?" So let's look at this contrast for a second. You have Ariston with all his magic, a year of non-stop devotion, and he'd failed to make any impression on the princess. And yet this stranger, in a single moment, conquered the very heart that Ariston thought was unconquerable. For the very first time, Ravissante felt that feeling of love. The stranger promised he would return, and then poof, he vanished, just as quickly as he'd appeared. Ariston was distraught. He and the fairy doubled down on their enchantments. First, they surrounded the island with horrible sea monsters. But when the stranger returned, just effortlessly sailing past the beasts in a magical floating tree, they resorted to something far, far crueler. They built a tower on the highest point of the rock, and then cast a spell that made both the tower and the entire island invisible to anyone approaching by sea. Ravissante was now, officially, a prisoner. Trapped in her invisible prison, Ravissante's indifference to Ariston finally soured into pure hatred. He didn't even dare to come near her anymore. Her only comfort, her only link to the outside world, were two beautiful butterflies, one white and flame-colored, the other yellow and gray, which had been left behind by her mysterious love, the Prince of Leaves. One day, while she was lost in her sadness, the flame-colored butterflies suddenly spoke to her. "Why," it said, "don't you send me to the Prince of Leaves? He will surely come and rescue you." The princess was stunned, of course, but her surprise quickly turned back to despair. She explained that even if the prince knew what had happened, he could never find a place that had been made invisible. But here, my friends, is the crucial flaw in their plan. The yellow butterfly chimed in, revealing something incredible he had discovered. He'd scouted out the prison from every possible angle, and while it was completely invisible to anyone on the water, it was perfectly visible to anyone high up in the air. You see, the fairy and Ariston had guarded the sea, but they had never, ever considered a threat from the sky. And just like that, hope was back on the table. Okay, but this brings up a pretty big question. Could the Prince of Leaves actually command the air? The butterfly admitted he couldn't, but, he said, he had a very powerful friend who could. And then, the butterfly revealed this absolutely fantastic history. He told her all about the island of butterflies, home to winged men cursed by Cupid himself. He spoke of their leader, the Prince of Butterflies, a demigod born from the sun in a rose. And he revealed that this prince owed a massive debt to his best friend, the Prince of Leaves, for helping him rescue a princess of his own. Now, it was time to repay that debt. So as the flame-colored butterfly sped off to find the Prince of Leaves, Ravissante was completely absorbed in this incredible secret history. But their conversation was cut short. The door to her chamber burst open, and in stormed Prince Ariston, his face an absolute mask of fury and dread. "Fate is threatening me," Ariston cried out, "and since it's some great misfortune, it must be the misfortune of losing you." He pointed to the walls of the tower. The blue stones, the symbol of fidelity, were slowly losing their color, turning green. For Ariston, this was a sign of utter doom. But for Ravissante, who saw the color of her beloved's myrtle leaves, it was a sign of certain hope. You know, his grief made him honest, and Ariston made one final, tragic confession. The fates hadn't just demanded fidelity, they demanded fidelity to his first love. And, he admitted, before he met Ravissante, there had been someone else. "The first sight of you," he confessed, "made me forget everything. I even thought our love could overcome fate itself. But your coldness has taught me that I was deceived." And just as he finished speaking, the most magnificent sight appeared in the sky. It was a throne made of foliage, held aloft by an unbelievable number of butterflies. One of them, entirely blue, flew right to Ravissante. It was the Prince of the Butterflies himself, the Son of the Sun. "Come, beautiful princess," he said. "Today you get your liberty back." The butterflies placed the throne right beside Ravissante. She sat down and was immediately carried away, up into the air. And Ariston, watching his love, his destiny, everything, vanish right before his eyes, he was just overcome. Totally distracted, in one final, terrible fit of despair, he flung himself from the rock into the sea below. The fairy, abandoning the rock that had now become so fatal, unleashed all of her fury. With a single, mighty clap of thunder, she shattered both the rock and the tower into 1,000 pieces. The fragments were carried by the wind and the waves to coasts all over the world, and it's said that from these remains of that shattered blue rock, we get the stone they call turquoise. The Prince of the Butterflies delivered Ravissante to a boat where the Prince of Leaves was waiting for her. Their joy, well, it's impossible to describe. They sailed immediately for his home, the Island of Day, a land of perpetual sun and flowers. And there they reigned with all the happiness you can possibly imagine. And they were always happy because they never stopped being fond and faithful to one another. And the story leaves us with this final, rather bittersweet thought on the fragile dance of love and fate. A little reminder that while Ravissante found her happiness through constancy, for so many others, that one thing alone is never quite enough.